We doing this?
We're doing it.
We're doing this? Are we doing this now? Hey, it's Jim along with Ed. We're scheduled to have Sharon Thorsland at some point, but her kid's got a ball game right now. So priorities matter. Ed's kids are grown and so are mine, so we don't have to cart them around anymore. But we're going to talk some sports. You want to talk some sports, guys? And then
absolutely.
We'll find out what Sharon's been up to with her kids' game. And Bernie, you've got little Peebo back there getting the big show.
He's actually getting he's actually got some gas right now, so he's he's getting worked out.
He's got a full tank, huh?
That's right. That's right.
Crazy. Anyways, we're going to talk some sports and have some fun, talk some radio, of course, with you. But Bernie, you know what we do best. For Kamala, who are you voting for?
Oh, that's easy. I'm voting for Peebo.
We're not going to talk the politics. We're not going to talk the politics tonight. That's all the other shows that are on the air all the other times and so forth. But guys, I was at Panthers practice today, and Sharon was out there too, so we'll talk about that a little bit. Some good news to start with, and then we'll get into whatever questions folks have and all that as we go to. Which, by the way, Ed, I can't see the questions, and Bernie, so when you get questions, just let me know. I'm not seeing the chat room thing. Is Jonathan Brooks, the second-round pick out of Texas, the running back, practicing. They've got this window of 3 weeks where they can activate him. I'm thinking they'll probably use all 3 weeks because they want to get him as recovered, as healthy as possible from the torn ACL at Texas last year. But that's a good sign, Ed, just to get – I mean, it's not our biggest need, running back, because Chuba's having such a great year. But anything that helps to add to the talent level is huge for this team right now.
Right. And you don't wear Chuba down. You can give him a little spell there. But this ACL, Jim, it was like 11 months in recovery, wasn't it? It was pretty bad.
Yeah, but he was moving pretty good at practice. I think they're just trying to give it as much time as possible. And they say it's about a year, but some guys come back in less than a year. I think this will be about a year by the time he gets to it, being, as you said, mid-October right now. But that'll be a positive for them. And Sam Franklin Jr., special teams captain, getting back out there again. So again, they've got a ton of injuries, but Bernie, to me, the biggest thing honestly is the defense. I mean, it's great about getting Jonathan Brooks out there, and would love to get Adam Thielen back out there in a couple of weeks. It'd be huge. Get Taylor Moton back out there. But, dude, our defense needs help. I mean, we got to get some healthy bodies on the defensive side. Like that game against Atlanta was soul-crushing watching Tyler Algier carry guys 18 yards for a first down.
Can Thielen play linebacker?
I think more like a slot nickel.
Yeah.
Jim, you get so excited about the offense and you get hopeful, and then, geez, here comes the Falcons just running it down the field on you. It's killing.
It's tough, especially when it's a division game like that. And their defense isn't very good. So hopefully we played them last game of the year, by the way, at the very end. So hopefully by then we got some more healthy bodies. We're playing better ball by then.
Well, the Falcons are finally starting to put it together because they've got all the weapons to be successful. I mean, before they even took Bijan Robinson, Algier was I think he was a 1,000-yard rusher as a rookie, was he not?
Right,
I mean, he was a heck of a running back. So they've got a 1-2 punch, and they've got Mooney that they signed from Chicago. They've got Kyle Pitts. I mean, they've got
Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is he's earning his salary. Big bucks again.
No, he is. But for the Panthers, guys, Dan Morgan and everyone said, there's no set expectations for this year. Nobody wants to hear that, of course, when you keep having changes. But it kind of makes sense that you bring a new coach in that you don't put an exact timetable on it. So obviously, you want to win games, you want to show progress, but the reality is what it is, and we're seeing it right now. This team's 1-5, and they're struggling right now, but hopefully they're figuring things out as far as what they're going to have moving forward. And I still think the quarterback thing is interesting because of the fact that you put, say, as a question for you guys, say at some point we're eliminated from playoff contention, whatever point that is. We're 1-5 right now, so it's not trending well. Do you put Bryce back out there for the last, say, month or whatever it is, just to see what you got and to see if he's gotten any better, just to know, because you know what you've got in Andy Dalton. But that's not a long-term plan.
Yeah, Bernie, you can jump in too, but you need to do that because you need to, if you're going to make a decision in off season to go differently with a quarterback, you need to see what this time off has done for him. So I totally agree. Last month or so.
Yeah, I think you got to give him maybe 4 or 5 games at the end of the year if we're definitely out of playoff contention, which I think we will be. Just with the injuries and all the stuff that's gone on, I think it's just tough for us if we don't score every time down the field on offense for us to stay in games. Right. With the the Vegas game, I feel like, is an outlier because our defense was playing so well, and we hadn't lost Shaq at that point yet, had we, Jim?
No, that was the next week after that.
Yeah.
So
So I feel like
Chicago.
Shaq is huge in terms of defense. I mean, he was our quarterback, so to speak, on defense. And Derek Brown in the first game of the season, I mean,
that was terrible.
Those are two huge losses. But I think, yeah, you give Bryce a few games at the end of the year. Sorry, I kind of danced around that question. I feel like I'm talking politics here. You give Bryce a few games at the end of the year, I think, to see what he's got, because we have a revamped offensive line who's giving the quarterback time in the pocket. And Bryce, I think, with last year is kind of just scarred from the little time he did have in the pocket. I don't know if he knows, what to do. I feel like he's just kind of got the yips or had the yips, and hopefully he's, working that out in practice. And you definitely see what you have in Bryce, but I don't have much optimism that he will be the long-term solution in Carolina as much as I want him to succeed. I really do.
Hey, Bernie, I don't see are any of the listeners chiming in with questions?
Yeah, so Jim actually said, "Good evening, gentlemen." So good evening.
Hey, Jim.
I see that. And good
name.
evening. Good evening to you, Jim. It's one of my favorite names. But the thing about Bryce is a great point. I feel like when the pocket breaks down, like you said, 62 sacks last year, his first instinct is to run out of the pocket, even sometimes when the pocket is still good enough to stay in it. So I think that's something he needs to work on. And I think that only happens by, I hate to say, by playing even more. I know people were frustrated with the way he's playing, but I think you do kind of have to make a final determination before heading into next year's draft what you're going to do. We have a first-round pick. We got the Rams second-round pick. We don't have our own second-round pick, but we've got some high picks. I would even consider, if we have one of the worst records again, if we track that way, trade down and just collect as many first 2 days of the draft picks. I'm not a big fan of these 6th and 7th round picks. I think they're long shots. But collect as many quality picks as you can, just because you really basically have needs at every position. Even where you have Adam Thielen and Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen's older, like 33, 34 years old, and then Deontay's on a 1-year deal, so he probably won't be here next year. So even if it's the draft, I wouldn't draft a receiver per se, but again, any positions on the board, line, edge rusher, probably the hugest need. Getting a pass rusher is probably the biggest thing I would think this team needs right now.
Crazy to think we had Hassan Reddick and Brian Burns on this team 3 years ago.
Hassan Reddick available in a trade.
Yeah.
He still hasn't played. How's Brian Burns doing this year? I've not paid attention, Jim.
He didn't really do anything until this past week, and then he had a good game this past week. I actually forget who they played against, but he actually showed up last week and played well, but kind of quiet. But I think the thing about Brian Burns is I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's like dominant. Like he's one of those guys that will show up and get a sack, make a big splash play. But as far as I felt like a lot of times, like he would go rush the quarterback and the tackle would just fan him out behind the play, and he would almost run himself out of the play. So again, I'm not saying not a good player. He's obviously a very good player, but I think not worth paying like the $30 million per year he was looking for back when he was a Panther.
So Adam Wilkinson wanted to know, do you guys think Thielen and Johnson will get traded?
I think those are things that are in play as possibilities for what we just said, that they're not part of the long-term plan here. But I think, Deontay Johnson in particular would be one that could be bandied about. Part of it is Adam Thielen's coming off a hamstring injury right now and isn't back yet. So you got to be wondering, when will he be completely healthy to play? But moves like that to, again, gather draft picks, move forward, have stuff for next year in a year where our record's not going to be good. To me, Ed, it's smart money ball, smart football, things the Patriots used to do back in the day when they were good.
Jim, when is the trade deadline?
That I would have to look up, and I don't have the internet. So short story, we had an air
next couple weeks, I think. Yeah,
next couple weeks. We don't have any internet, so I can't look it up right now as I talk to you on my phone, which is my only working device right now, since our AT&T line got punctured by the air raider. So I would look it up on my computer, but right now it's just a word processor.
Jim, I wanted to ask you this question. I know I said something earlier today. You are juggling a lot of balls. You're all over the place. I mean, for our listeners out there, your work week from BT's morning show all the way through Panther and then ECU, and when do you rest?
Usually now, but I have to do this right now. But no, I actually, a lot of people do morning shows. Like I think Beth goes to sleep at like 8 or something like that. I'm like about 10:30 or 11. So I get about 5 hours, like from about 11 to 4-ish, something round numbers, about 5 hours a night. And people say, oh, you must not need much sleep. No, I do. I don't get it because there's not time. And then, because sports happen at night. And
Okay.
just on a typical week, like this Saturday, ECU plays at Army, so I'll fly out Friday to New York, 1 o'clock flight, do the game, which is a noon kick Saturday at West Point. Game ends, I'll drive down to Washington, D.C. for the Sunday Panthers game against the Commanders, and then come back on the team charter Sunday to start the new work week again, Monday. And you just kind of start the cycle. Then every week's different. Like last week, ECU had a bye week, so it's like, yay, had a Saturday off. And then Sandra let me know that we're going to a wedding at Bald Head Island, which was actually a further drive than going to Greenville. So it's always something. I'm not complaining, by the way. It's just it's a busy time of the year. I enjoy all of it. It's just this time of year, it's just like there's not much downtime. But I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it.
No, I know exactly.
Well, Will Timms is here, the WBT superfan.
Yes, who's been in studio with us.
That's right.
Hey, Will. How you doing, Will?
Said it's the Facebook Live edition of the Sports Huddle. Yeah, I think Bo.
Does anyone get that reference? Does anyone else get that reference?
Bo played that this morning, didn't he, on the show?
He did play the old Sports Huddle theme. For those who don't know, that was the old sports talk show we used to do on WBT back in the days of, honestly, there was no sports talk radio back in the day. We would do an hour to 2 hour sports talk show at night, usually about 6 to 7, sometimes 7 to 8. And then we carried the Hornet games back in the day. So I would do the Sports Huddle show after the Hornets game during basketball season, then do a regular show in the summer and spring and so forth. But prior to me, Steve Martin, Gary Sparber, if people remember those names, Paul Ingalls, all did the old Sports Huddle show. So that was the thing. And when I got here was actually, I arrived in the late 80s, right about when the Hornets had just arrived before I got here. And I would ask people, like, what did you all talk about before there was an NBA team here? And they said, well, we would talk about college football and college basketball, mostly ACC football, ACC basketball. And I said, what did you do in the summer? Talk about recruiting for ACC football and ACC basketball.
Not Kendall Gill. They wouldn't talk about Kendall Gill yet.
Kendall Gill did not come till later, as you know, Bernie, in 1993.
Thank you. Thanks to John Hancock.
Thanks to John Hancock for reminding us every day that's when that happened. Because Kendall Gill, the most exciting, dynamic, all-time, most known Hornet of all time. Solid player, but not like it was Larry Johnson or Alonzo Mourning or somebody.
Hey, Jim, do you get together with Steve Martin? See him around? How's he doing?
I'll be honest. The last time I saw Steve was actually at our 100th anniversary of WBT. So that was whatever years ago or whatever. But Steve hired me originally. Yeah, he is, and I have not had much contact with him. I've not had any contact, I don't think, since then. But I hadn't had much contact with you because he really, when some people retire, like they retire. John Stokes will bring by donuts and things a couple times a year, but I'm gonna be that way too. I don't know how you guys are gonna be, but I don't want to be that hanger-on who just like shows up at the radio station and says, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And I remember how things were back in my day, and then leave without bringing donuts.
I'd kind of like to have a Good Morning BT featuring Jim Szoke. I'd kind of like to do that.
At Snooze?
Yeah, you could be the producer for the day.
Oh yeah, you can run the board.
I could produce at that point. I can produce your show because we'll all retire. It'll be Bernie and Steve.
And Ed Billick.
That's right.
Ed Billick will be there.
Ed Billick will always be there.
Yes.
Ed's never leaving.
I'm on my 14th year now. It's amazing how fast time's gone.
Wow.
Damn,
14th year now. That and Carolina Focus. And
I remember when you were a teenager when you started.
Yeah, my hair was black.
It's like that Office episode when Creed dyes his hair black and says, "I'm 30."
Oh my god.
Oh, it's funny. Hey,
you can't work on the morning show without knowing all the Office references.
That's
part
right.
Of the show.
So Jim had another question, and Jim Szoke, I don't know if you really want to touch this one, but maybe me and Ed could talk about it. But he asked, do you see any similarities between David Tepper and Jerry Jones?
I'll start the ball, and I'll let you guys run with it from there. They're both owners of NFL teams. Now, you
Love
guys
it.
Go ahead.
Love it.
There's a major similarity.
Bernie, I'll say they both have large egos.
Yes.
And they both have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie?
I think that
we're covering a lot of ground.
Yes. So they both have that mentality. And I said it this morning on the show, is that they kind of take their ball and go home if things aren't really going their way. I will say that Jerry, to his credit, is a lot more public and vocal and available to the media. I know that the Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl in 30 years, but I would rather have an owner who is more visible, in the way that, I mean, Jerry at least owns up to stuff. I know he had his moment on the radio this past week where that was not good at all. And
he like fired the host on the show.
Yeah.
I'll get someone else to ask my questions.
Exactly. So I think that's awful what Jerry said and did. But I will say that the only positive I see that's more positive with Jerry, in my opinion, is that I feel like I don't hear much from Tepper when things are bad. It's usually when there's an announcement about a new concert or something coming to Bank of America Stadium, or improvements to the stadium. I would like to hear a little more from Tepper, but I do give Jerry credit for at least being there when the going gets tough. You know, Jerry is not in the background. He's usually out front. But I see a lot of similarities, like what you said, Ed. Money and ego are the two main things.
You know, I was listening to Kyle Bailey this afternoon. He was talking about the Tampa Bay Rays not able to play in that stadium, Jim, down there. Is the Savannah Bananas, will they play at Bank of America Stadium, or they're going to play at the BOA? And he's going to convert it to a baseball field.
Yeah, they're doing that at several. They've done it in past years at NFL stadiums. They added more this year because there's some that they'll do different size venues, like they did Kannapolis, where the Cannonballers play a couple of years ago. So they'll still do some of those smaller minor league ones, but they also want to do some bigger ones because they've had so many requests. They feel like if they do some big venues like a 70,000 seat stadium, they could get a region of people to travel and come in and see them. So it's
I guess
big and small.
To that point, can you see Tampa Bay playing some home games here in Charlotte?
It's possible. Again, I don't know the whole concert schedule and all the events that are coming when it's not football season. So it's hard to know how available it is. You know, one of the comments we talked about in the morning show today was that, the Oakland Coliseum where the A's play is going to be vacant as of next season because they'll be in Sacramento waiting for their Vegas stadium to be built. There, at least you have the infrastructure of they play baseball all the time. It's not being used at all, so there's no conflicts. So it would be for something like if it's part of a season, a place that they could just go to and have that one place. The weather's going to be good, and just go with that. So
I understood at that Coliseum they have cases of Febreze. When the players go on the field, they spray the can because the place stinks so bad. I mean, that's a hole there. Come on, Jim. I don't know if Tampa Bay.
Well, that's why the A's are leaving. But as of like a month ago, the A's were still playing there. It just gives you.
I know.
It's a temporary thing. It's not it's for a few months.
Would they be like the formally of Tampa Bay Rays for the year, or would they still be the Tampa Bay Rays in Oakland? Yeah. Like, how would they do that?
Well, if you look at their name, it actually has A's in it. So the Rays,
and it's already got Bay. I mean,
it's the A's and the Bay.
Bay, and they would be in a Bay.
It's really just a matter of changing a letter or two. They're basically the A's.
That's true, actually.
And basically nobody goes to the games in Tampa during good times. Even when they're like playing in the playoffs, they weren't going. So it's just Florida's finicky. I talked about Jacksonville the other day, with Jeff Rickard on FNZ. It's like Jacksonville came into the league with the Panthers at the same time. I just feel like they've never really caught on. Like, how many Jaguar fans have you ever run into ever? The Panther fans are even just with our record, the Panther fans are still much more passionate than the Jaguars. I think it's more Georgia, Florida, SEC stuff down there. And it hasn't changed in 30 years.
Well, they're building a new stadium. Right.
But they play in London every chance they get. I mean, every time they get a home game, they can switch to London and they make more money by doing that, by not playing in Jacksonville.
I feel like the Southeast has always kind of been college football territory outside of, New Orleans, where they have the Saints. I feel like they're very passionate down there about the Saints, and the Falcons have it solid.
Well, the Braves.
Yeah. Right. But like college football is huge in the Southeast. SEC football rules everything. Florida. So. Yep. And then Jim, well, great name. He keeps saying, Jim, thanks guys for keeping me company every weekday morning. I consider you friends and sometimes talk back to you.
I wonder how that goes. Like yelling at your car.
Into the abyss.
Radio. Into the abyss.
Well, I'll tell you what, you guys have a great chemistry in the morning. Gosh, and you could tell it's all spontaneous. There's like no rehearsing.
There was no planning. There's like literally no planning that goes into that show at all. We just show up and go. Mm-hmm. I'm kidding. Bo would kill us if we said that.
No,
Bo is the most organized.
A lot into the show, but
he's probably listening right now.
Yeah, I'm talking about my role. They plan a lot. I mean, like when Bo is out, Bernie knows. When Beth is filling in and it's us helping out. she will send like 40 articles, and we'll do like as many as we can, which is like 3. So she's super like all day working, passionate about it. Bo, I think he just goes home, goes for a quick run, and then he's back working at home the entire day on the next day show. All the production he does on top of the planning for that. So it's great. It makes it easy for me just to show up and do what I said, just kind of goof off. I appreciate that Jim laughs and likes our show.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. We appreciate that.
I do the same thing.
Rodney says rabbit hole radio. That's exactly right.
It is. Sometimes it just takes one key word and we will just go off and go down. And then Bo is amazing. This is probably the most amazing thing out of all the amazingness of Bo is that I don't know, Bernie, you're a producer, but I mean, just like within 5 seconds of someone saying something, he's got a song queued up and ready to go. I say queued up like the record album.
He's got everything stored. He's got everything stored in that laptop, man.
But how do you find it that quickly?
So
like, how do you still have to find it? You can't just have it in there.
I've never been over his shoulder when he's doing it, but I imagine that he's got like a library that he literally searches keywords in, and he will pull that music bed or sound bite and just have it ready in his computer. What I have to do is go on YouTube and wait for the ads to finish playing. And then if the time is still right, then I can play the clip. Like today, you guys were making the joke about Bo was like, "Oh, I'm rhyming," and then you guys started rhyming with each other. And I almost played the Happy Gilmore clip where he's like, "We can go by the bay and eat some hay. What do you say?" But I had it too late, so there was no spot to play it.
Bernie plays it like half an hour later. Hey, remember when you guys were joking about rhyming stuff? Look what I found on YouTube.
I just let it breathe.
But Bo's the example of making your hobby your life's work. Because that's truly his hobby.
Yes.
That's
well, hey, Will,
you did that.
That's true.
Ed was a big wig executive with Frito-Lay, and his hobby was broadcasting. You know, a great compliment was said by a former program director about you, Ed, is like, your golf is radio. Like some people want to go play golf and have whatever travel. Like Ed's favorite thing was at that time anyway. I hope it still is. It was radio. It was like your hobby, and you worked hard to switch careers.
And you know what's fun is the public affairs show that Sharon and I co-host. I mean, I interviewed somebody today, a Navy captain that runs Right Life at Home. He runs this business of taking care of elderly people so they can live the rest of their lives at home. What's interesting is I probe into these different topics, and it's interesting and it's fun. So
that's great,
Jim. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity. You said, "Hey, Ed, how about we pay you to drink coffee and talk sports?"
I was happy to have you do it, so I could just drink coffee every now and then, and not talk.
Bernie's been a big ad. Bernie, how long you been running the board now for a morning show?
Morning show. It's been about I would say 9 months now, since about January, early February.
With total time with BT, what?
Been almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Be 3 years in March. So it's been great. I mean, thank you as well, Jim, for the opportunity. You hired me too. I mean, remember the first day you were like, "Hey, there's that kid on the street that keeps bothering me. Let's get him a job."
I handed you my copy and said, "Here, read the ending part, especially."
Yeah, much like listener Steve, I was a listener, just kind of got a job.
It's amazing. If you listen to the show, you could become the next member of the show. That's how
it could be you.
People don't know that. That's how Steve got the job with us. People think that's a joke. It's not. But Steve, Sir Steve of Anthony, was just a listener, and he just started showing up in the studio. The door was unlocked, and he's become part of the show now.
Yeah, Steve's pretty good.
Kind of like kicking a feral cat.
My cat, Steve. Hey guys, so Will Timms had another question. He said, "How do?" And this is, I think, more for you and Ed, Jim. But how do you guys go about getting your sound bites? And Jim, he says he loves whenever you react to the play-by-play call when it's boring, especially the ones that have been featured recently.
I try to help Bob Costas when I can, especially.
Jim has that kind of you put on that different kind of voice when you're introduced.
It's like a game show baseball announcer, and it's like "Wow" and "Hey," and it's like a Will Ferrell, Harry Carey, unknown like game show host combination of people. It's just a complete. I don't even know why I do it. I don't even know where "Blow" came from. Blow. I just like to just. It's probably mostly Will Ferrell as Harry Carey that I'm ripping off. But our sound bites, as far as where they come from, Ed found a service actually that provides some sound bites that saves us some time. Otherwise, it's surfing like how Bernie surfs the internet and YouTube. It's a lot of surfing the internet trying to find audio. Back in the day when we were with some other networks, they would provide a sports feed along with the news feed, and now it's more like I'll take stuff out of Raw and pull audio from Raw and make sound bites out of it, whatever I can find.
Yeah, and then what you have to do is you have to clean it up. You have to do the 10, 15 seconds to get the most impact of what you're going to provide the listener. And you don't want to bore them with half of the thing doing, 30-minute soundbite. So you gotta pick and choose and then see what's appropriate.
Yeah,
that's why I love
they
when
only give a minute.
I love when Jim leaves the sound of the bat in a home run call. The knock of the bat is what does it.
I love that. Bernie puts a fist pump like every time that happens. You'd be disappointed if I didn't leave
even if it's a team I hate, you'd be surprised. I do it anyways.
Imagine if we did college baseball, that ping of the aluminum bat. It'd be ear piercing.
And some good hockey calls. Jim, you've been doing some more Hurricanes now here lately too. The season started.
Well, I think each year the Hurricanes, I think, get more fans down this way. So it's still, more up in Raleigh, but I think it's become more and more regional. But especially when they're playing well, I think people are into it. I think Raleigh and Charlotte are like that. I think because I'm up in Greenville in the Raleigh area a lot, I think people are really into the Panthers when they're playing well. And same with like parts of South Carolina. When they're not, they just kind of tune out. I think when the Hurricanes weren't playing as well a couple years ago, there was a little bit less interest. But now that they're back playing really well again the last couple of years, I think in Charlotte, you got a lot more fans that are paying attention more often.
Let's move over to the baseball playoffs. Of course, big money LA. I was looking at today. It's been 38 years since the Mets won a World Series. That's surprising. And of course, you're Cleveland Guardians.
Oh, I was a Guardian fan as a child. I had Guardians gear. I had a Guardians hat, Guardian jersey. But yeah, the Clevelands, they've been in the World Series. Of course, 2016 was the last time. The Cubs, they went 7 games with the Cubs. But believe it or not, they went twice in the 90s, 95, 97. The last time they won a World Series was 48. So I can't even tell you, that's a lot more than 36 years ago. So I guess the Mets would have been the old, Keith Hernandez, Darryl Strawberry days, all that stuff.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, Dwight Gooden. Yep.
Yeah, it's all the Dodgers and Yankees, all the big market teams. And then I feel like Cleveland's kind of like the group of 5 entry into the postseason. Like it's like having Army or somebody in the NCAA football playoff. Like here's a shout out. Well, no, we're playing. EC's playing Army this week. I'm just saying, but like Army never had a chance to go to the playoffs before. It's like the Cleveland's like the group of 5 selection into that. That's because the other ones are like Ohio State and Alabama. That's what the Yankees Georgia. And the Dodgers and all that are. I mean, how can they not win 100 games?
Yeah,
I'm watching Cleveland. Like going, oh, here comes Aaron Judge. Here comes Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, it's just like one after another. Juan Soto. If we had one of those guys, we would go nuts. I mean, we have one, which is Jose Ramirez. I mean, they have like 9 of those guys in their pitching. So it's like you almost have to just play out of your mind and catch them on an off night.
Absolutely right. Bernie, your favorite baseball team?
I'm a Braves fan.
Braves.
Okay, like Bo.
Yeah. Let's go Braves.
Braves are my other team. That's my National League team.
Unfortunate. But I mean, the Mets, Dodgers, and Yankees are the 3 highest payrolls in baseball. So I think we all expected them they should be here.
Right.
So, I mean, the Guardians, Jim, who did they take first overall? Because they had the first pick in the draft this past year, did they not?
They did. I'm trying to think of his name. It's like he's an Australian. I think he's a shortstop, but he's supposed to be like one of those 5 tool guys that can do everything.
I love it.
It's something. I'm not exactly right. The name is like Bonanza. It's like similar to Bonanza, whatever his first name is. But yeah, if you looked it up, and if I had the internet, I would. He is an Australian player, but he's supposed to be like the deal. But of course, you have to go through the minor leagues for 2-3 years before we'll even.
He's not a Paul Skeens kind of guy that just comes up.
Hey, so I got an email from Sharon. I don't know if you guys got it too, but I guess her son's football game is running long, so she might not make it tonight.
Well, since she's not getting on, let's talk about it.
Was that a scheduled tweet?
Yes.
Yeah, my son's. I think she wrote that at like 4 this afternoon.
It happened
Game
right
was
at
running
7:30.
long.
No. She
It
told
did. It came in right at 7:30.
yeah, she told me that this could be this would be running late. So
I actually
there's a
told her
chance
not to
she might
bother.
not be here.
Well, and she has to do the one Monday, so she's got that one coming up. So I think that's cool to not make her have to do 2 of them.
Yeah, and she said she'd definitely be there for ladies' night, and I told her that's the highest rated one. You know, obviously, everybody's there.
Yeah, knowing our
It
audience,
was last year. It was last year.
Hey, Jim,
Yeah.
Michael Carpenter said that if you ever retire, WBT would not be the same.
You're right; it'd be better, but
No, I disagree. I think it'd be much worse. We
will
can't
retire
survive
at
without
some
Jim
point.
Szoke.
Well, that's Michael. Thank you. First of all, it was really nice of you to say. It's funny though because it's like the premise of the whole radio station is news talk, and then I come in and just blow the whole thing up. I just come in and if they start talking politics, I get up and I walk out, and then I come back where they're talking about urinal etiquette, like we were talking about this week, or what's your favorite pizza. So I don't really, in a lot of ways, fit the show, but on the other hand, it's kind of like I'm doing this parallel universe of like they're doing this show, and I'm like on the outside, like tapping on the window, just yelling stuff at them.
But Jim, what you do? You bring this dry humor, this dry wit, quick at it, and it's for folks that know you and listen to you a lot, they'll say, "Well, Szoke will probably say this right now." Then you'll surprise them with something else. But,
Szoke, you have the unique ability to probably fit in any show ever made, ever.
It's funny.
You
There are
have
certain days where I walk down, and Bernie knows on Monday I go down to FNZ. I'm on with Mac and T-Bone, but a lot of times on a Monday, Matt Harris on Mix 107.9 will want to talk about something sports related or whatever. So I literally I call it the car wash, like the ESPN car wash. I'll just go like from station to station, and a lot of times with Matt Harris, I'll walk in, they're already talking. I sit down and we just start talking. And one day I walked in, and sometimes it's not sports. Matt goes, "Hey, thanks for coming in, Jim. We're talking about times that you were in your house naked and somebody came to the door," and I had a story for that. And so, but you have to think that fast. So the story was similar to that, but not quite someone at the door. Was Sandra works from home. She has an ad agency, so Sandra works from an office in our house, and I work at the radio station, except for COVID, so I'm not always here. But I decided, I don't know, it was like middle of the day. I took a shower, and I had a towel on. But I walked down to her office, and I opened the door. I start doing a sexy dance, and I realized as I'm walking in that it's like this. I'm looking at these faces, and I'm like, I was within less than a foot of being on her camera, walking in doing my sexy dance, and she looked at me. Her eyes were like this, and I just slowly backed out, closed the door. But what are the odds? I mean, I walk in. What are the odds that at the top of my head, it didn't happen like that day. So it's like, what are the odds I would just walk in and have a story to share with about being naked in your house at an inappropriate time? You got to be ready for all situations.
Oh my God. Well,
and that is a real story. She will tell you that is. I probably didn't give it enough. Actually, there's probably more detail, but that was enough, I thought, for this show. And you guys,
you genuinely do. You could fit anywhere. You have this unique ability to come into the room and drop a bomb, kind of with like 5 words, and then it sparks an entire conversation or laughter. And you do so much with so little, and I feel like that's just something you're so used to with your job, is that you don't have a ton of time to fill, so you have to make the most with what you have. And you do that with your sports reports too. I mean, in a minute, there's you, Sharon, and Ed all give so much information in that 1 minute, and it's a really unique.
We got a good team. It's funny, like if one of us is going to be out, we just email the other 2 first and say who can grab this shift, who can do that one, and Ed goes out of his ways a lot of time because he's really busy on Thursday and some other days. And you can see Sharon's right now, she's at a kids game or whatever. It's, we all kind of juggle. I've been there, man. I was in that wheel for years of taking kids to community house and Ardrey Kell High School for ball games and after school practices and all that stuff. So I can totally relate to what she's going through. It is like, that is a second job when you got kids playing sports and doing any kind of activities, if it's band or in theater or whatever, that they got a lot going on. So I can imagine.
We were talking how full your plate was, Jim. What Sharon's been doing, and we could talk about her since she's not here. I mean, with all the hurricane mess up in Hendersonville with her parents and her brother, and she's been handling all that with the kids, all the work she's doing with the Panthers now, and she's coming and going all the time. So, but she has a lot of energy in her tank. That's for sure.
No, she does. And so you got to enjoy it too. Like, I mean, I look back, we made great friends with other parents that were still friends with them. And yeah, I know Bernie knows the Napiers. I mean, that goes back to like when we were in high school and our kids all played sports at RDK together and all that. So you really get, on one hand, it's exhausting, but on the other hand, enjoy it because it is kind of a blip of time. I remember when our kids, like my son Andy, played high school football. I could think of like his freshman year of making the team to his senior year, and you're standing on the field at senior night. It's like a blip because really it's like a 3 year gap. It's not 4 years; it's three between the actual calendar of doing that. So it goes by super quick. And the next thing they're off to college. So you go from like all this activity, and then they're at college. I know Ed and I are empty nesters, and Bernie's just getting started with a little Sutton there. But enjoy all the different stages and ages and all stuff. We have one grandchild. It's kind of like getting to experience everything they tell you about being a grandparent is true. You get to experience it, but not have to like be fully exhausted by it. But it's cool.
There's been some great experiences so far. Ed, before we came on air, was talking with me and my wife about how it's every week there's something new that you find about your child or your grandchild. It's pretty exciting to come home, and I feel like he's starting to smile now more while he's awake. He's gotten to where he's smiling while he's sleeping, but now he's starting to smile with his eyes open. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's actually the gas. But
yeah, I think so.
Here's another thing listeners never. When I was in my other career, I could tell if someone had a bad day. Someone coming cranky, they didn't get enough sleep, irritable, they just did not have a bad. On radio, I can never tell if anyone of you are having a bad day. Because you're always positive, always uplifting, whether it's Sharon, Jim, you, Bernie, and anyway. And that seems to be the thing in radio that Garrison, anybody, Bo, you can never tell if they're having a bad day.
It's all about compartmentalizing. Some days are rough, but you can't let everybody. You get fake it till you make it. Some days, right? Fake it till you make it.
You're always going to have somebody that you have a dispute. It could be your boss. I mean, I've had 1,000 general managers, program directors, co-hosts, and all that stuff. But Bernie, you've probably been this way too. It's like playing golf. Like I don't, except for maybe twice, feel like I've ever gotten paired with someone playing golf I didn't have something in common with or be able to get along with. It does happen. I mean, it's so rare. And I think in the business too, those people wash out eventually. And they might be there for a year or several years, but they will wash out because eventually they'll burn too many bridges and people will just get tired of them. But it is. If you're having a good time, you got the right attitude, it's a blast. It's work. I mean, we make light of it, but it's like in our business, some people have great hours. If you have like you talk about Kyle Bailey, if you got like a midday shift or an afternoon shift, that's great. I've always worked mornings. Like 95% of my life has been getting up. And while I do stay up late, I hate waking up every day. 35 years, I've hated waking up. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Thank God for coffee, but that waking up hurts. It physically hurts.
Jim, I'm glad you continue to wake up every day. I'm glad.
I do too.
I'm glad.
But I wouldn't mind if we started like at 8 instead of 5. That would.
You can do that tomorrow, Jim. I'm giving you permission. Yeah. Why don't you take?
Hey Ed, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead. I
mean, I've worked part-time in some other worlds besides radio, but not much. First day of college, I was working at the college radio station. I went there the first week. I started doing this. I'm actually lucky. I'm one of those people that set out to do something. I've always done it with a few things added on the side, but I've actually never worked in the business world. I watched Sandra work in the business world, and it just seems so foreign to me. What was it like being an executive with a desk and a window? And you talk about people you can tell when they're in a bad mood. Like, just give me a minute or so about what that was like working in that corporate world, because to me, it's like the antithesis of what we do, which is a little bit more fly by the seat of your pants kind of stuff.
I would think, as you say that, it was like a sporting event in a way. And let me just talk Frito specifically. If you're running a plant or a distribution center, you got the clock is ticking. You got to produce the potato chips, Doritos, Fritos. You got to quickly get them in the bag. The bag needs to be sealed and into the warehouse and onto a truck. And you can't have downtime. Okay, you can't miss your shots. So it became very, how efficiently did you perform every day? And you had the scorecard. You were looking at the scoreboard. And how well did Jim shoot or fry the potato chip? Or how well did packaging do their job? What was the waste factors? So all that kind of scoreboarding or stats information, and then you summarize, did you win the shift? Did you win the day? Did you win the week? And it was a lot like a sporting event. So, sitting in your desk and shuffling paper and looking at reports, but then getting out on the floor and talking to the players, talking to the coaches, talking to your leaders. Pumping them up, sure, but also motivating and then helping them solve problems by effectively questioning. I mean, you're asking a question here that it goes in many different areas. And some people are having bad days. And how do you snap them out of that? How do you win every day? I would tell our folks, we're never going to win a Super Bowl. Okay. You weren't good enough to play basketball, football. You didn't go to the big colleges, but we can win every day here. Then you celebrate your wins. And that's a kind of culture and environment that we had there. A lot of companies are like that because then they're building that leadership, building those skills into their leaders. And that was the job of the executive or job of the plant manager or director or whoever. So it was the general manager. It was like maybe Dan Morgan getting out on the field. Yep. But working with his coaches, gaining the right players. You have to make choices. I mean, maybe that person just isn't fit to be a packaging machine operator or be a forklift driver. Okay? Maybe there's something else they could do, or maybe it wasn't for them. So I could go on and talk about that. But to me, it's a lot like sports. That's probably why I like sports.
I'd run through a brick wall for you, Ed Billick. That was terrific. I like how you explain that.
And
plus, you look like Nick Saban, so I would definitely run through a brick wall.
Yes.
To me, it's servant leadership. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Helping other people succeed.
Our part of the business that you described probably most closely resembles that is the sales staff. Because, Sandra did multiple things, but she became sales and then she became a sales manager. And you kind of, corporate, which is usually in another city, looks at a computer screen and sees the ledger and they see your numbers. And so I think that aspect of our business is definitely like what you described. That's definitely the business side of it right there.
Right. And then in doing so, and what you guys do every morning, you win that shift or you win that segment or you win that 4 hours. So like the listeners that are listening here tonight, they turn in, they tune in every day. They want to know what you guys are talking about, what's going on. They get some traffic from Boomer. They get some weather update from the Weather Channel guys. And it's a good mixture. We started this show saying we love sports because we don't like politics. We want to talk politics. You do a little politics, you have to because it's in the news, but it's a good variety of things. That's what makes Good Morning BT really special, I think.
Well, Rodney said, or we were talking about the urinal etiquette earlier, and he said urinal etiquette and politics are pretty much the same thing, and I kind of agree. I agree with that.
They can be. They're both kind of dirty, yes.
Well, urinal etiquette. I didn't hear this morning, and maybe some of our folks in a nutshell. What was that all about?
So, Bo, we started a business segment about how it led to personal space and airplanes and how it's getting smaller and smaller personal space for people. And then Bo talked about the psychology that he goes through and thinking about, all right, so when you sit down, it's like, this is the common area, like this is okay. But when you get into my space, that's when I have a problem. And the way he broke it down reminded me of the thought process that goes through every guy's head when he walks into a men's bathroom and there's a wall of urinals and you've got a couple guys scattered at the urinals. You have to pick which one you want to, is the most effective, where you're by the least amount of people. You don't affect anybody, like that's a thought process that goes through every guy's head.
And more, Bernie, that they don't affect you.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want anybody next to me.
You don't know what's going on there.
I want to do the business and get out of there. So I brought that up and it led to like an hour-long conversation of where Bo said he used to be able to pee on a wall in Charlotte somewhere. And I said, I don't think that's legal. I'm not sure that you can get arrested for that. And he's like, no, like there used to be like water that ran down the wall. Like that's what it was the bathroom. Like you would.
Yeah, those are the old school urinals. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never experienced that.
It's like an open trough. There's a lot of germs.
I've experienced a trough, which is quite an experience, but the wall.
You feel like cattle.
It's like that's the kind of stuff people call the cops on you for, just peeing on a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you left a word out, like it was an actual bathroom wall as opposed to like a brick wall of like a business. He didn't mean
like
that.
Like in Big Daddy when he just lets the kid go to the bathroom on the wall.
That's a great difference. A great point with that.
Hey Jim,
yes.
Mark just chimed in and said he misses you in the booth with the Panthers, but you're still in the booth.
Yes,
correct?
But he misses But here, now Mark was Keith Larson's producer, and he would do this great bit on.
Oh, it's Mark
Sorry, read the
Thomas.
rest of it. It's
Mark Thomas, yeah.
Yeah.
Carolina Focus and keep up the great juggling act, Bernie. Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Thomas.
Mark was Keith's producer, and every Monday he did this thing called Panthers in 60. It was when Mick, Eugene, and I were doing the games, and he would just pull out what you guys were talking about with the morning show. Like if you pulled my snarky comments out of the morning show, like that, along with funny things Mick and Eugene would say, all three of us, and he would just make a whole segment out of that. And he called it Panthers in 60, but it was really like Panthers in like 100 seconds as opposed to 60 because he couldn't squeeze it down to 60. But he would come in on Monday morning and he would listen to the game on Sunday and he would timestamp all. You produce Bernie producing would appreciate this the most about what time certain things were said, so he could come in and find it on the documenter, and he would edit it into this segment, and they would just play it, just like it was just these non sequitur comments, and that was it. But I mean, Mark did a lot more than that, but that was the thing about the booth and doing the game that he's talking about.
Hey, Mark Thomas, if you have any of those saved, you should email me one of those or to the show email because I'd love to hear it.
He does.
I'd love to hear it.
He's got them, but they're on DAT tape.
Mark, thanks for the Mark used to cover Carolina Focus for like a decade or so. So that's good hearing from you, Mark. Hope all is well, you and the family, and I'll swing by sometime. Love to see you.
Hey, Jim, Will Timms chimed in and said, hearing all of these stories about Jim reminding me of when Jim was late for his Hall of Fame announcement. I don't think I was here for that. I had just, I think that was like a year or so before I even started, but I've heard stories about that.
Is it fair to be called late for something that you weren't told was happening? So, I mean, to me, I didn't know about Ed. Ed was part of that, by the way. So I had finished, it was a Wednesday. I'd finished the morning show. It was 9. And John Stokes came in. I think it was H.A. and Hancock. And I actually brought them into the studio. And I was told, because long story short, they were going to surprise me with announcing that I was going to be one of the 3 Hall of Fame members. And I guess John Stokes already knew that they had already predetermined and announced that he was going to be in. But they were adding me as the 3rd member with Bob Lacey and John. So they want to surprise me on the air. Well, every Wednesday at 9:30, I was recording a show, primetime in the ACC. So at 9, I left because no one told me not to leave because they thought I would just hang around and they would just come get me at the right time.
So Jim, at that point, did you know you were in the Hall of Fame?
No. Right. Everyone thinks I knew. Like everyone thinks like you didn't know you were going to be in the Hall of Fame. Well, it wasn't even a thought in my head. Not even a thought in my head. There was no reason to think anything other than the fact that it was going to be those guys. And so I'm driving home and Ed's calling me and saying, hey, they were looking to see if you want to come in and hang out on the air a little bit. Oh, I left. Oh, okay. And then Sandra's calling like, where are you? I go, halfway home. And then Ed calls again, like, boy, they sure would love to have you in the studio, Jim, just to chop it up with John Stokes and H.A. and them. I'm like, well, I got to record the show at 9:30, otherwise I would. But I saw them all anyway. I walked them in the studio. Then Sandra calls me and she goes, get in here right now. And I turned around and I came back. And then as I'm driving in, now I know what's going on. Now I know. They're all looking for me. Now it's making sense. As I'm driving in, it actually was a cool experience. I'm listening to the production piece that Bo did with all these voices and sound bites from my career. So I'm driving like a listener in traffic, stuck in traffic on 77, coming back to the radio station, hearing it. And so that actually was, although panicked, a cool experience to hear it on the radio driving in. And then I, long story short, got in for like the last minute of Bo's show and got on the microphone just to say hi and thanks, and off to Vince Coakley they went. But it was, it worked out. I showed up. That was just the telling me about it. I didn't actually miss the Hall of Fame itself. As we all know, we were all there for 5 hours. We all had plenty of Hall of Fame that night, so it wasn't like I was late for that. I also didn't eat that night, by the way.
Got an update from Sharon. She said, oh, man. Sorry, this is a live update. So her son's team was winning. Then the opposing team ended up tying the game with 2.5 minutes left. And she said, we just passed to our tight end who lateraled the ball back to our running back, and he ran it in for the game winner with 2 seconds to play.
Wow.
So it looks like Sharon's with 2 seconds to play. So there's still time, but that's really cool. That's really cool.
I'm glad she's not missing that to do this.
Yeah.
Shenanigans.
No offense to Talktober. Sorry. No offense to Talktober. But
Oh no, not
that's
the
incredible.
Talktober. Just this particular episode of it.
That's beautiful.
She made the right choice. See those moments you're talking about with your kids? I mean, those are irreplaceable moments. You got to be there for that. I wish she was
Yeah.
FaceTiming us live from there so we could see the game while it was happening.
Oh, I should do that. I should FaceTime her right now, shouldn't I?
FaceTime her, so yeah, bring her in. Bring her in.
Or she's at home drinking a glass of white wine, just texting stuff to us and acting like she's at a game.
That's how that's how our friend David Chadwick says kids enjoy your presence, not presents. Your time with them.
That's very
Yep.
true. Your presence is my presence.
They'll remember that versus any little toy they got.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. Wouldn't David have been like the greatest dad to have? We've met all of his kids. DC as dad, that would have been like the bomb.
He could still be. He's like our dad figure.
You guys say he could still be our dad?
He's like the radio dad. He's like our radio dad.
Yeah, radio dad.
He is a radio.
Well,
dad.
Bo is the radio dad, really.
Sometimes when him and Beth get going, they never argue about say, "Oh no, mommy and daddy are fighting," because they'll be going back and forth about what topic to do next. And,
Yeah.
and we're like
They
the
never
kids,
really
like,
argue.
what do we do? Mommy and daddy are fighting.
Yeah.
What's this about doing a segment of when the mics are off in between the breaks? I heard you guys talking that the other day.
We say that
Show
we could never
continues
do
on,
that.
right?
We could never do that.
We'd probably get fired
We would be fired. We'd have to be on
or canceled.
satellite radio or a podcast. We would have no future.
It would definitely have to just be online. Like
It's not anything bad. I mean, it's like we're like different people off the air, but it's just like, it's a goof. I'll just put it that way. It's just it's a lot of goofs.
We could. I think we should,
but in a good way. Like nobody, like Bernie will say, nobody swears. We don't get off the air and hear any bad words. I mean, it doesn't exist. It's just fun.
Well, you're kind of in that mode when you're in the studio. You kind of act like every mic is hot. So you try, even when they're off, you try to, because there are a few times where I try to be quick on the mic and I'm not quick enough.
None of us trust Bernie enough to let that one go.
Well, the first couple of weeks, I kept forgetting to turn your mic on at all. And when you try to do your sports report, the very first one, you're like, hello? Yep.
Well, Bernie knows this. It's probably boring to everybody, but he turns all the mics on. I've always turned my own mic on and off for the very reason we just said, because you don't want somebody else, like, you're just sitting there talking, all of a sudden your mic's turned on. And it's like, again, not that you're saying anything bad, but you just don't. I'd rather have it be my fault than somebody else's fault if my mic's on.
And honestly, the way the board, everything is set up in the studio, Bo gets his own mic as well.
Okay.
And Beth, if she could reach around to get her button,
that's right,
she would probably get her own mic too. But that's the only reason why I get her mic, and I try to stay on top of it. But there's every now and again we'll go into a break, and I won't hit it quite quick enough, and you might catch a word. But yeah, Jim and Bo are both controlling their own mics, so it's just the volume, really, the levels is what I'm controlling.
I think it's worth shouting out, Bernie, to you, John Moore, Steve Anthony, all the guys, Isaac, that run that board. I mean, I did it for 5 weeks for events back when I started. There's 144 buttons on that board, and all of them do something or have a purpose. And for you guys to constantly be moving around and hit the right ones at the right time, and at the same time running Adobe Audition and recording and searching for different tunes. I mean, you never sit down. I don't know when you ever take a break.
No, that's probably my favorite part about the job, though, is that I have ADD. So the fact that there's so many things going on at once, it's kind of fun to try to juggle everything. And I don't always do it well. I feel like I do it pretty well most of the time, but there are definitely times where I try to put too much on my plate at once. And that's why it's been really helpful to have Steve come in. I feel like he's got a wealth of knowledge as well. And guys like you said, John Moore at the station, who's got a wealth of knowledge, and Isaac, who's fairly new to the station, but a great guy and is super eager to learn. We just have a really great crew. And working with someone like Bo, who he's a producer by trade. I mean, that's what he does. He does production. So he makes my job easier in a sense. I mean, it's a lot of moving parts, but when you have someone who to play off of that knows exactly what to do, it makes your job pretty easy in my opinion.
9 times out of 10, if you screw something up, no one really knows except you.
Yeah.
Listeners don't. Good stuff.
Hey, Jim, Will Timms had a question for you. Do you have a favorite referee that you enjoy in terms of
NFL
NFL
officiating?
officials for Panthers games.
I used to like a lot of people because he's memorable. Used to get a kick out of Ed Hockley because he was built like a bouncer at a bar.
Yes,
His son is a referee now. I forget his first name.
His son is not as big as Ed.
Not as big as Ed. Ed was like, I mean, but that was like such a character having him there. And whoever the guy was, that was that famous call where he said he was giving him the business, that kind of stuff. So I don't have a favorite that I remember beyond that by name and so forth. There's some that we hate when they come through because they're just like, oh no, not this guy. I remember the Eagles game when they had all the calls against us and all that. But
how about Jerome Boger? You like
that's
Boger?
it. Jerome Boger. No, do not like Jerome Boger. Do not like Jerome Boger.
Who was the one? Was it Hockley that told Cam he's not old enough to get that call, or was that someone else?
I don't remember who it was. I remember the incident.
Hockley.
Yeah, but it was a long-term referee. It might have been Jerome Boger, quite honestly, but it was somebody who had been around for a long time, and that's ridiculous. And he may have been kidding. He may have said it. In fact, I probably think he probably was just being snide and just kidding, like you're not, But I think people overblow that stuff. That's a tough job. I've never done it. I've never been a referee. Never wanted to be a referee or an umpire or any of that kind of stuff. That's sort of a thankless job. Think about that. It's like you're just out there and nobody thinks you're for their team. They always think you're against them no matter what.
It's kind of like being an offensive lineman. When you don't hear your name called that much, you're doing a good job.
It truly is. And they should. I mean, you shouldn't. No one, as we say, no one goes to the games to see the referees and the officials. So you shouldn't be the show. You got to do what you got to do. But I never understand the thing where they call a penalty that never happened. Like there's a lot of things that can be questionable. But how do you see something and then unsee it? Like how you see the replay? Like, well, how did you call a penalty when nobody did anything wrong? I can see missing something because it happened too fast, and you should have called a penalty. But how do you invent clipping? Or how do you... I swear he took his knees out. Yeah, he didn't.
Sir, he was standing up the whole time. I'm just. So a couple quick questions because we got a couple minutes here before we wrap up. Monica Schaefer wanted to know, what's the worst interview ever?
So this is going to surprise you because it's not sports related. And there's been some other bad ones, but this one is always one of my favorite to go to because it's funny to say. But back in the day, Channel 3 used to have more celebrities that would pass by. We would grab them, and you guys have been there before when we've had just, like the late Bob Saget passed by, and I tracked down Michael Hall, who was running the comedy club, who brought him in, and we get Bob Saget would like randomly pop in. But many, many years ago, Mickey Rooney, you know who Mickey Rooney is? I know Ed does. Like famous from childhood, like actor. I mean, if he was
he's like
around,
3 foot tall, right? About 3 foot 5.
He was like 3 feet tall, and he was like 100 years old. He was so not wanting to be in the studio with us, and probably because they added him on at the last minute. He comes in and he just everything. It didn't matter what we asked of him. Everything we asked of him, he was just vulgar, mad. He didn't care. He was just like angry, and he is. He was like, I think he was maybe 5 feet tall, and it's just funny because like this is like. Again, a long time ago, but one of the world's most famous actors at one point in the world, Mickey Rooney, was just such a jerk. And so it was just like, it was funny, John Robinson and me doing the interview with him because it was just like, he was so uncomfortable and so unhappy. We did 2 segments with him and kept him over.
Oh my
that's
God.
hilarious.
Hey, Jim, I got to tell this one. When I was working with Don Russell, the best interview he ever did was with Phyllis George. He said she was so gorgeous. She worked for CBS for a while. But he interviewed her, and he says they must have talked for a half an hour. He said he said I would have taken her out on a date when I'm married, that kind of thing.
Yeah, otherwise she would have gone and married him, but too bad he was married.
Don Russell.
She's just Miss America or whatever.
Yeah, she was.
Ed, she clearly was Miss America.
Hey, Ed, Mike Vinyl Tap wants to know, what's your favorite Frito-Lay chip? I kind of want to know this too, actually.
The two bags behind me. One's a Bill. One is Cal Ripken. Thanks, Cal. And the other one is a Steeler logo. You gotta go with a Lay's potato chip. You gotta go with a regular Lay's potato chip. Doritos spice, sweet and spicy, is good. And Tostito scoops with some of that Tostito salsa.
Ed, are you a Cool Ranch or a nacho cheese guy?
Nacho cheese.
I'm a Cool
Yeah,
Nacho cheese.
I'm with Bernie. I'm with Cool Ranch. I do have to say, there was a couple years ago, Ed used to bring, he still brings in stuff, but there was a period of time that they were really trying out crazy new flavors that didn't exist for a period of time, like maybe more than 5 years ago. And the one you brought in that I still love to this day that was astounding to me was the cheeseburger one. It tasted not only like a cheeseburger, but ketchup, mustard, pickles, and a little bit of a charcoal taste. It tasted like specifically it came off a charcoal grill cheeseburger. I would, that's my all-time favorite chip that ever existed anywhere. Does it even exist anymore? Does it exist in a foreign country somewhere I can go buy it? They need to bring that back for just a week, just for a day. Do you remember that one?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And there was
pickle, I mean, like everything.
And then the lemon flavor potato. They try a lot of different flavors, and yeah,
Mike said the original Doritos chip was perfection. Apparently, I don't know if I ever had the original Doritos chip.
And we had a Frito-Lay gathering last April, Mike, and one of the original creators of Doritos in 1966 was at our gathering. He's now 88 years old, and he told stories about the days that when they created Doritos.
That's
a little history there. Fun fact. Hey, Jim, this is a good question for you. With all the new football stadiums, and you've been to all of them, at least all of them. For a fan that loves NFL football, what are your 3 favorite for a fan experience?
Oh, that's a great question, Ed.
I'll give you a couple different answers, and you can kind of pick from what would fit your mood the most. I mean, you got to go to Green Bay, Lambeau. They've kept enough nostalgia there, but they've also updated it. What's surrounding it with their Hall of Fame and the restaurants, they've got this whole experience around it, and it's just a fantastic. You got to do Lambeau Field. The new one in LA, SoFi Stadium, as far as state of the art, is awesome. And it's like this indoor-outdoor experience as you're kind of walking upstairs. Like on one side is the game going on, and the outside, you're looking outside on the same rampway that you're walking. You turn in, you're looking at the game, and then you're inside, but yet you're outside at the same time, like a pavilion. And they also have this winding wraparound ribbon board of just all the different games going on and stuff like that. That just kind of like a wave that goes all around there. And then Jerry World. I mean, the Cowboy Stadium is huge. It's just it's big Texas football. And outside they have a giant screen and all the tailgaters out there. So that's an experience too. And I'm not a Cowboys fan, but that's a cool environment to go into too.
Well, hey, I'll do this, I guess, the last question since we're running a little out of time here. But Joe, I think this is Joe the fan, Joe Mitchell.
It is Joe Mitchell.
Jim, can you give us a favorite Roman Gabriel memory?
So Joe is Joe the Rams fan. Of course, Roman, his best years were spent with the Rams, and Roman was our color commentator with Bill Rosinski. The first 7 years, the 3 of us were the broadcast team. And Roman would come in occasionally and fill in and do the sports huddle. Remember we talked about sports huddle, the sports talk show earlier. And then, Joe became such a fixture with Jerry B back in the day, and Byron, his producer, that when Jerry would go on vacation, they would have me and Joe and Byron occasionally fill in. It's like during the summer. So I think we did a week, and Brett McMillan came in with us that one week. But there was a time we had Roman Gabriel in there too. So Joe the fan got to meet his hero, Roman Gabriel. I got to bring them together. So imagine Bernie. I don't know who your all-time favorite athlete is, Bernie, but let's say whoever it is. And then
probably
you got to sit down. So I'll go. You, me, and Steve Smith are going to do a talk show tonight. And you get to hang out with Steve Smith and not just meet him, but do a show with him for an hour. So that was my favorite cool. Roman Gabriel memory, is that Joe got to hang out with Roman and get an autograph and all that cool stuff.
Well, I don't think Steve would want to do a show with me, but that would be cool.
Imagine if it did happen.
That'd be really
cool.
What
if I could get you Kendall Gill?
Oh man, I feel like I'm back in 1990.
Yeah.
Well, it's been fun, guys. I know we're running until like 8, and I know Jim, you and I got to wake up super early.
Yeah, Sharon's just not coming. Let's just face it.
No. I mean, they're probably drinking champagne.
They're probably in triple overtime or something right now.
No, she said they won.
So there were 2 seconds left, was the last I heard.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right. They could have come back. I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, we'll find out that, what she does Monday night, which she's required to do. She can talk about what happened on this.
That's right.
That's right. This night. Hey, I enjoyed it, guys. That was fun.
Yeah, I had a great
time. It was fun, guys. I'll see you 2 in the morning.
Exactly. Thanks to everyone that chimed in with your questions and all that. That was we appreciate you participating.
And thank you to Craft Body Scam, right?
That's right. Craft Body Scan.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you
our
guys, and I
sponsors.
hope you all have a great night, and we'll see you guys next Monday.